Hey, what's up, world? Welcome back to another edition of the Cigars and Bullshit Podcast. Yours truly, DJ Bentley. I'm joined with Steve and Frankie, where we're going to talk about another interesting topic this week. It's about cigars, and it's about the bullshit. Let's get into it. You see, Steve, the problem with that is...
This is the way they're growing up, though. This is now.
Right, it's so interwoven in everybody's life. And I started by saying it's artificial intelligence. You cannot go to a bank now. You can't touch cash. I mean, you can get cash.
You could, but it's on its way out.
But for the most,
it's on its way out. They've already said that they're having all these meetings with the World Economic Forum, and every country is starting to put up their own digital currency, and there's going to be a U.S. digital currency eventually. They're bashing all this crypto stuff because the big banks don't like it. They don't like the fact that Frank could buy $5,000 or something, and overnight it could be worth $500,000, and he just made, 1,000-fold on his money.
Right.
They don't like that. They don't want him
to do it. They're not making any money off it.
They want to do it.
No, they're not making any money off it.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
So they hate that.
I want a piece of it.
Right.
So that's why, right now, the crypto world is so volatile.
Right.
We saw Bitcoin go from. I'll mention a brief story of a friend of mine. I won't say names or nothing, but a friend of mine kept saying to me or to several guys, I think it'd be a good idea for you, this guy. Even if you just take $500, take $500, take $500. And this was not that long ago, but long enough ago that where Bitcoin was only a couple of grand per coin. It might have even been less. It might have been around $1,000. I forget exactly what year, so I can't quote that. But it was a few years back, and I procrastinated because I didn't know enough about it. Right. And I had other stuff going on. Then when I finally decided to delve into Bitcoin, it was probably up around 40 grand or 35, 37. I jumped in, put a couple bucks in it, and it went up to like 70 last year. And I was like, wow, I basically doubled my money. Now, I didn't put a ton in. I put like 1,000 or 2. But I was happy that I doubled my money. Then I saw it kind of dipping, and I started trying to educate myself on that. And I was like, something's fishy with what all this, people, whales, they were saying like whales were buying like $5 million worth, and then they were dumping it, and it was affecting the coin. And I was like, this is too easily manipulated for me that I'm not feeling comfortable enough. I pulled my money out probably as it was on a downslide around 55, 60. So I was happy that I was up, but I didn't make $1 million or nothing. I just less than doubled my money, but I'll take it. $2,000 became $3,000. I'm happy. I made $1,000. Free money. For him, he got in early enough, and he really rolled the dice. He threw down, I think he said somewhere around $20,000. That $20,000 became like 70 or 90 grand. And what he did is he pulled it out because he bought it when it was only a few $100s a piece. But he kept telling us, do this. But I didn't know enough. He pulled out like 50 or 70 grand, put it down in a house, and that's how he got his house. That he left the original 20 in, so now he's ahead of the game. He's playing with the house's money in a sense, if you think of it in gambling terms. That 20 he left alone again became like another 50 or 70. He pulled that out, and he put that on the principal of his house. So now he put $100,000 on a house, or more, like 120, and that was all free money, and he left his original 20 in there.
Right.
And it's doing whatever he's doing. He's moving it here and there on different items, different coins. But I'm like, right now, I'm just so nervous with all the manipulating that's able to happen.
Right.
Look at the guy who set up that one coin and took everybody's money and took off.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. There's no tangible.
It's just too scary for me to mess around with.
It's kind of just.
I wouldn't put anything like 20,000 or 50,000 in because I don't have that to lose.
Right.
You might as well go to a casino and roll the dice there too.
Right.
Because right now it's just really volatile. Unless you do that for a living, and you're super educated on everything going on, and you could pay attention minute to minute to move stuff, I'm not that guy.
And see, that's my thing. It's like, for me, it's about the volatility. See, people say, "Oh, it's a volatility issue." I don't believe it's a volatility issue. I believe it's an instability issue. It's unstable, and it's unstable to the point to where you can't trust it. So I kind of shied away from it, you know, and I didn't get into that space. But it's scary because in order to fuel a virtual reality world with all of this AI, you have to be able to live in the reality world. So if you're not able to sustain your reality, you can't even get into the virtual reality. Yeah. You know, and if everything goes as you're saying, the whole world now turns into this virtual reality space, there's only going to be a certain number of people that are able to do that. You can't live.
And those are the people who really
will thrive.
They'll thrive in that world, but they won't function well in the regular world. So it's a trade-off. And I'm honestly, I guess it's my age.
But then
I'm okay with this world. I'd rather function well here. But there's also certain things that we are forced to change with the times.
That's what I mean. Like the world is changing to where you will ultimately, I don't know if in my lifetime, I probably won't be here, but you have to be in it. There's no, you know, even with jobs, right? Like before, and I was telling this story to a friend where years ago, I didn't know really. I was young in my career. I was working at a job. It was like a summer job, and somebody came in. They got an increase, and I was like, I want an increase. Walked into my boss's office, and I'm like, look, I want to make more money. You got to give me an increase, or I'm going to quit. And the supervisor, the boss at the time, was like, okay, when's
bye.
your last day? And I was like, oh, shit. I didn't have anything lined up or anything, right? Went to the New York Times. Before you go to the Times. Wednesday.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Wednesday. No. You probably never experienced this, right?
No. I mean, listen, I'm not young, but I'm not old either.
Yeah, but you go to the Times.
You got to go to a newspaper to look for a job.
Yeah, you go in the back of the paper, and then you
find.
I
just missed that. I just missed
job listings and all that stuff.
You got to go to LinkedIn now.
Yeah, LinkedIn. You see your profile, where you worked, who you know.
Pandemic, forget that. Even now.
What was that other job site like Monster? It was all about your resume and stuff.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So now
you had to hit keywords in order to even get on someone's radar.
Even now, because of the pandemic, because even then you go to the job and they say, okay, we got to come in for an interview. You physically go in and you bring your resume and whatever, or even if you submitted your resume, people would look at it and you physically meet with somebody, they interview.
They feel you out.
All right, well, because of the pandemic, forget about the interview. Now you're doing it virtually, right? You go in a Zoom meeting and it's, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to say where I work, but there were several people during the pandemic that were hired, onboarded during that whole process. So they never physically met the person. And they got a job, right? I mean, obviously,
it's amazing,
right? Amazing. So now we go into the virtual reality world. It'll be the same thing.
Of course.
You put on your VR headset, and
of course,
your avatar will then interview. You'll get the job, and as you said, they'll digitally send to your account
your paycheck,
crypto,
whatever it is,
right? Some sort of digital currency.
Yeah, your digital currency, and then. But again, there's nothing. You didn't receive anything. You didn't. You're just connected. You're connected into this virtual reality.
You know what's scary too? That's coming. That I heard, or whether it was, I forget where it was, whether it was the news or this or that. But I understand we're going towards what they call. You're no longer going to be just having a credit score. You're going to have what they call a social credit score. That's scary.
Well, I don't even know what that is.
I don't understand enough about it, but.
So basically, like
they're gonna judge you on everything.
They're gonna do like a score where it's like, I teamed up with you, we did this. How did you rate this person? How was he a team? Like, was he a teammate?
No, I don't even know if it's gonna be about that. It's gonna be about your browser history, about what you do, and all this other stuff. Like, I don't know exactly what a social credit score is supposed to mean, but that's scary.
I'm gonna look that up, social credit score, because, I mean. Again,
but they say it's coming.
I don't know how.
And I'm saying to myself, here's another thing I don't know anything about.
I'm not trying to change your subject, but I don't know if you heard about this new, what they're doing with credits now, like your credit score. They're actually, instead of looking at your credit score now, banks are going to be, I think they're calling it like FICO 10 or something like that, where they're going to look 10 years. Your credit score, not your credit score today or last month. They're going to look.
God, they're going to look at your history. They can look at your
what
history.
happened within that time frame before they can give you a loan on your house. Or a loan on
Oh,
a
so in
car.
other words, if you have some sort of derogatory on your report 8 years ago,
It's going to be
they're
there.
going to look at you and nope, you have the potential to fail.
Well, that's
They're going to
crazy
take an
because-
average of 10 years instead of
because
just...
the
Maybe that's something related to the social credit score.
That's crazy because even now the way that the system works is after 7 years or something, stuff falls off.
Stuff falls off, but
and-
Right,
they
but
wanna-
the point is, if they're looking at a 10-year window, if you made a mistake a long time ago, you might not get a job.
Yeah, but how do you
How do you do that to somebody when
people go through divorces?
Let's say-
people get
right,
sick. and,
right, illnesses
all
or whatever.
kind of stuff
And it
happens
sucks because,
to you.
like, no one's perfect. No one's
Well,
perfect.
Here's a perfect example. He says sick. What if you're a family of four? Let's just say an intact family of four. Husband, wife, 2 kids. Let's say your husband's in the military and dies. And suddenly you don't have the money to pay the mortgage because the woman is at home. Let's just say, I'm just going to give a hypothetical. I'm not going to be stereotypical here. It's not a sexist thing,
Not
but
like a
I'm going to give
debate,
you a regular scenario that's a possibility. Let's say you have a man and a wife. And the woman says, my kids are only 2 and 3. I'm going to stay home, put my career on hold. My husband's working, whatever. Let's say he dies in a car accident or cancer or something. Now she has to figure out getting back to work, childcare, all struggles, and you may or may not at that point have to go through a bankruptcy or lose your house or be behind on your payments.
Right.
And then you recover and you're fine,
But it's still on your record.
Right.
but it's still going to be on your record.
And they're going to say, they're going to look back 15 years back and go, you know what?
You had this happen?
You
That's
had this
horrible.
happen to you.
Why weren't you prepared?
Why didn't you? Yeah. Why
But
didn't
what
you
if you were
why
only
didn't
in
you
your
do better?
20s and that happened?
Why didn't you do better?
But what if it happened to you at 25, let's say? Now, are they going to integrate like, oh, you got stopped for blowing a red light, or you had a speeding ticket, or are they going to look at all, like, I don't know what this social credit score thing
Well,
is going to
forget
be.
about that. Again, AI, now there's cameras everywhere.
they're just
You're
gonna look at a
driving.
number.
You're driving.
But yeah, you can't still catch
go-
a criminal? You can't.
well, see, and that's to the point, I guess.
What about the guy who came checking all our doorknobs in the neighborhood?
That's to the point about.
Where's your AI then?
That's the point about it is becoming a negative, so much of a negative thing versus what it could be used for in such a positive way.
Right.
Like,
well, you're more worried about
what's the
catching.
movie?
They're more worried about revenue, catching you for a red light ticket, than catching a criminal.
But what's that movie where the guy used to go back into the future, and he would, before a crime would happen,
Minority Report. Tom
Minority
Cruise.
Report.
He would
The ball would come down, and it'd be like, okay, you got to go back to this time because
and go get this guy.
this person is going to
He
kill
commits murder.
somebody.
Yeah, he kills his boss or
Wow, that's
something.
crazy.
Right?
That was actually a good concept. That
That was
movie.
a great
There's
concept.
a lot of movies like that.
So the technology is not moving toward that type of thing, to where, like right now, the way technology is, there should be no missing children. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Cigar and Bullshit podcast. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Just hanging out with my friends, sharing experiences that help you take away something interesting and maybe some information that you didn't know. So make sure you tune into the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast.